We, as you can imagine, we get unsolicited testimonials every day at our company. And some weeks they'll be huge. I mean, just an amazing amount of people who in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, their life was changed in some way by the materials that Dad has created. And a few years ago, Dad had Lori. Lori's his assistant. She's been with us 33 years. She's the vice president of work, and she knows everything. So if you ever need something from our office, Lori's the one who you really want to talk to. But Dad had Lori go through the testimonials and do a little kind of site survey. And after going through and piling them up, well over 10,000 of them, I don't think she read every single one of them, but here was the ratio. For every one person whose life was changed because they heard Dad speak, there was 100 lives who changed because they listened to his CDs or tapes or took the material home and studied it. I mean, that's just a fact. And the reason is that Dad says he never gives a promise without a plan. Well, how can you be successful if you don't have the materials to take with you? And so that's his point. And so Dad would always sell very, I can't say aggressively is the right word. I'd say unapologetically. He would always talk about, you need this material. And the reason is he believed that he was in the life-changing business. And he looked at the results of lives that had been changed and asked him, how did your life change? And it all came back to that. Hey, you inspired me at the event. You gave me hope at the event. That led me to say, I'm going to try that. And they would try it. And a lot of people walk into these events and they're running their life not on truth, but on what they picked up or heard on the street. And all of a sudden they get a nugget of truth and they apply it and it works. And they're like, well, if that worked, maybe the other thing that guy was saying will work. And that's how the process works. So hope drives it. You need the will, skill, and refill. And you've got to put on a character foundation. Like Howard was saying earlier, Dad talks about the be, do, and have philosophy. You got to be before you can do and do before you can have. I've heard him 20 times the same question. Somebody will come to the table at a huge event. There might be 5,000 or 10,000 people. We were talking earlier, we've been to events where there's 80,000 people in the room. Georgia Dome, 1992. That's a big group. So those people go to the table, and if they get, so Dad would go out and he'd autograph for hours, and people would come up to the product table and they'd say, I'm brand new in sales. First time I've ever heard your dad or Zig. I've only got enough money for one program. Which one do you think I should get? And they'd already said they were in sales. So obviously, I'm thinking, hey, let's get them the sales program. They're in sales. So the first time this happened, I said, Dad, this guy has a question. So he asked a question, and Dad said, oh, that's easy. You need how to stay motivated. And then Dad said, and the reason is how to stay motivated, which is the personal development program, will teach you how to be the right kind of person. And when you're the right kind of person, you can take any type of skill you want and put it on top of it, and it'll be effective. If you're the wrong kind of person, no matter how good your skills training is, you're going to crater. I mean, you could be number one in the golf world, and if your foundation isn't right, you're going to crater. It doesn't matter what it is. Dad's mentor, Fred Smith, says every great failure is a moral failure. So that's where the character foundation comes in. And Dad will tell you that for his whole life, he was a character-driven guy. I mean, he did everything as best he could the right way. But until he had a personal experience with faith, his world was up and down, up and down, up and down. So I say faith is the multiplier. Dad's a mathematician too. When he talks about faith, he says, yeah, I did the math and I figured out you're going to be dead a whole lot longer than you're going to be alive. Right? Right? So you ought to think about it. I mean, there's a lot of logic behind that. And then Dad also has a formula, and that formula it says God plus you is enough. And I can tell you more stories on the behind the scenes stuff, but when he accepted Christ is when his whole world changed. And he's been able to share that in front of stages all over the world in a non-offensive way, because people want to know, hey, what's the secret to your success? What is it? And he'll tell them flat out, I was doing all the right things, but the rug kept coming out from under me. And it's because he had that missing ingredient. And even the character things, he says he didn't really know how to love mom until this happened. There's so many things that happen in his life because of that. So a simple formula that we have, will, skill, and refill. We talk about that with all of our corporate clients. And we talked to them about the hope aspect of it and how you got to build that. We talked about character and faith. I don't know how you do it without it. This comes to my favorite quote from Dad. You are who you are and what you are because of what's gone into your mind. And you can change who you are and change what you are by changing what goes into your mind. That's just, to me, that's pure and simple. What's caught in us has created us, and we have a choice now. We can choose what goes in us more than ever. What you choose or what you allow to go into your mind will determine your hope, your will, your skill, your refill, your character, and your faith. So the typical American right now, or maybe the typical world citizen right now, they go on to Drudge and the headline, we're going to do 4 times the debt this year. You go on Fox News and, the oil spill's going nuts, and you click over on the internet and you listen to talk radio, and man, your brain is just getting pounded with all these negative things. And it's real, and it can really impact you. But what you don't realize is that's loading up your system. So Dad gives an illustration. He says, if you're at home sitting in your living room and somebody knocks on the door and you open the door and somebody runs in, you don't even know who they are. They run into your living room and they've got this 55-gallon drum of garbage, and they just pour it in your, all over your couch and your furniture. Of course, you guys might like this, but you pour it all over the couch and the furniture, and it just basically makes a mess out of your whole house. You're probably going to fight them. You're going to call the police. If you're me, you're going to get the gun out. It's not going to be good. But yet people dump that same kind of stuff in your head every single day, and we don't do anything. And you know what? You can clean up. I mean, my house is going to be back to normal in a week. Nobody will even know that we had all this water damage and everything else. But there are things that go into your brain that'll impact you for the rest of your life, and you've got to replace it. You've got to get out of it.